What's up? It's Freaky Friday on Invisible Walls, episode number 56. We have a kick-ass show for you today. But first of all, we have a very important introduction to make. A new addition to the GT editorial staff. Miguel Lopez is our brand new reviews editor. This position is very important. I've been doing it myself for the last several years. Finally, I can offload all that work onto you, Miguel.
I'm happy to take it. Hello, everybody. It's good to be here, finally. It's been a long time coming, but I finally made the move. And yeah, I look forward to working with all you guys.
Working for those guys.
Yeah.
We're working for the people, Miguel.
Well, working with you guys, but yes, of course, working for the audience.
And just to sort of preface things, Miguel and I work together, it's been a decade now.
Yeah, almost.
At GameSpot. We worked together for a couple years, and we both kind of went our separate ways and did different things, and now we're reunited.
That's right. It's a lovely thing, man. Full circle.
And he looks so much younger than you do.
Yeah, he's younger than me.
But he's baby faced compared to you. You're like haggard and worn.
That's hard living, man. That's what it'll do to you. Sleep 4 hours a night, and this is what you look like. But Miguel has been in the industry for a long time. Definitely has a wide-ranging interest in genres. I think he's a perfect fit here at Game Trailers for our reviews editor position. So from now on, when you guys get pissed off and you think we're biased, you can direct all your ire at him.
Yeah, my email address is the same one you used to send emails to Shane with.
And Miguel, what's sort of your theory on reviewing games, if you will?
You know, just I think play it straight. You know, it's kind of impossible for us to come to it completely fresh because we've played so much stuff. You know, but I think it's crucial that we try to maintain that mentality, you know.
And it is hard, you know, because these games are shown to you so many times over the course of their development.
Right.
Sort of one of our policies here is if you preview a game, you can't really review it for us because we feel it might taint your opinion of it if you played unfinished code.
Absolutely.
But it's really hard to insulate yourself from these games. Even, you know, people out there watching and listening, think about the last game that you saw that you were like, I don't want to know anything about this game. I'm going on a media blackout. Were you actually able to hold out all that time?
Yeah, and we
probably
just,
not.
We don't have that luxury here, you know. Even if I mean, in terms of our work process, it's crucial that we at least try to do that, you know.
It is,
and
yeah.
it involves a good measure of foresight, you know, knowing who to send to check out which game.
Yep.
But again, you know, even a game that I've never played before, I have read a whole bunch about it simply because the people around me have played it and have seen it and have talked to people who made it. So yeah, I think that's a crucial thing to sort of insulate yourself from that as best you can and come at it with fresh eyes, you know.
Now, Miguel, do you hate the PlayStation 3?
I absolutely hate it. No.
Perfect. That's why you're hired.
You're so going to fit in here. And what's your opinions on the Wii?
On the Wii, I blame it for the death of hardcore gaming.
Right on.
Wow. Do we have the 10 Commandments of Game Trailers printed up here? And are you a racist and against communist China like Shane?
Absolutely, yeah. Just hang out with me on Xbox Live and you'll see the true extent
of my hate,
my antisocial behavior.
Okay, so you may want to sort of like just add the caveat that you're totally joking because we do have some people who take this as gospel.
Very obvious. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
I love everybody. I love all video games. all systems are near and dear to my heart. People.
Yeah, we are just kidding, folks. So, yeah. Welcome aboard, Miguel. Definitely glad that you're here. I know you're going to do a good job, and I know our users are going to grow to love you just as much as they all hate us.
Right on. I could take the worst you guys have to dish out. So.
Oh, Jesus, dude,
really
don't say that.
You're going to get some interesting gifts.
Oh, I bet I am.
You're going to have Hip Hop Gamer on your case.
He's going to rush me, man. I'm afraid of that guy.
All right, now in addition to Miguel, we have the usual crew of suspects on the show. Marcus Beer is in today.
What it is, my darlings.
Daniel Bloodworth.
Yo, what's up?
And Justin Spear.
I didn't do it.
And Ryan's sitting along shotgun, so if you hear from him today, it will be through someone else's mic, but we know how he likes to chime in from time to time. So without further ado, let's get it rolling.
Wii の間を DSi で持ち歩く
All right, first we're going to talk about something that undoubtedly is probably going to take up about 50% of Nintendo's E3 press conference. It's a brand new channel that just launched in Japan, and Daniel Bloodworth has been exploring it. What is the channel and what's the story, Bloodworth?
In Japan, it's called the Wii no Ma channel, which basically means the Wii room or the Wii living room. And essentially, it's a video streaming service, but unlike Netflix on Xbox Live or the stuff that you can get on the PS3, it's all original content. And so right now, you just you set up your little profile for your Mii, and and then all your Miis are sitting around the living room, and then you can click on the TV and just browse different things. Right now, all they have is there's like a nature program and some different cooking shows. But it looks like they're adding new shows on a schedule like every day or every couple of days.
Now, can other people come to your sort of room and watch shows with you with their Miis?
You know, I thought that at first, but it's kind of hard for me to tell with the language barrier. I did see in one of the trailers it showed like two Wiis talking to each other. But what they actually do have is they'll have like a random celebrity pop in and say, hey, look at this video. It's kind of strange.
Hard gay? Did he pop in there?
And the trailer they had Albert Einstein, and then the one I had I didn't recognize, but...
Celebrity. You use celebrity very loosely.
I thought he was dead.
It's like historical.
Japanese celebrities, we have the Japanese TV spots all the time that have celebrities, that I would never know. But then, they have sponsors like Honda and 7-Eleven and stuff, and there's also a sponsor room where you can go and kind of see like some of their advertisements. And that was actually the most entertaining thing on there so far. It's this crazy Honda ad, which is supposed to be about their cars going greener.
Yeah.
And so they have all these old cars, but they're not cars. They're people with cars on their heads, like hats, running around trying to get somebody to pay attention to them because they're too smoggy.
I like the one shot where the one guy was dejected and he looked all sad. Apparently he wasn't green enough.
So yeah, it's just starting out. It really, as any video service, it depends on the content. I'm surprised that they don't have any kind of original anime or comedy shows or anything like that right now. But
Now, do you think they really produced that nature show? Do you think Nintendo's
Somebody
out on the
produced it for
Serengeti,
them.
like filming wild boars?
Did it have
Yeah,
Funky Man in it?
I'm sure that. Yeah, I'm
just
sure that
got
there's
Snorlax.
some stock footage provider somewhere, and they had somebody produce it for them out of that. So
I can't imagine that they'd launch a service like that without using other people's content.
yeah.
Maybe we can strike a deal with them and we can do content on the channel here in America.
But there's some other little interesting features you can. Every video you have to like vote on afterwards. So you either liked it or you're indifferent or you hated it, and then there is an option to download that video to your DSi and watch it on the road. And then the sponsor rooms also have things like you can get them to send samples to you of their products, or you can like actually put a coupon onto your DSi and then they can scan it at the store for whatever discount you're going to get.
It sounds like a big old ad.
Yeah.
Honestly, this is like another way for them to make a buck. It's all going to be about the content. How much legitimate content would you say launch with the service in Japan?
It looked like, there was the one nature video I saw, and then there's like another thing about some artists in Japan, and then there were probably about 6 or 7 different little cooking videos.
That's it.
Yeah, that was it.
Not exactly Compellivision, is it?
Does Nintendo still make games?
Television.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know, actually.
I know they've just launched the DSi and they have some great games on the DS. I'm just wondering, are they officially a games maker anymore?
Well, I guess we'll find out at E3, won't we? Or
toy
will we?
company,
Last
TV
year we
company.
didn't find out.
Well, again, Microsoft has had this on the system forever, so in a way, it's just them kind of playing catch up in their own different way.
It's actually a lot like home. I guess it's like home mixed with Netflix.
It's more like this theater in home.
Yeah.
If you just had that.
Microsoft, they have Netflix, but they also have, pay to watch stuff you see on television.
Right.
This all sounds like weird sponsored stuff. Is that right?
Well, there's the sponsored stuff, but then there's just the other stuff that's kind of.
Can you make your own content and upload it?
Oh, God.
No.
Is it going to be like Wii YouTube?
I'm guessing
Now
the
imagine-
first video will have a penis in it.
Yeah, imagine that, man. Jesus.
What a nightmare.
So yeah, if they put it here, they're gonna have to do something totally different. It
Yeah.
can't be like the PBS of the Wii.
Yeah. It just sounds like they're just kind of playing catch
David
up,
Noah
and they're
was
still
stupid.
not going to catch up with this latest directive unless they change it drastically for the U.S. release.
At the midpoint on the journey of life, I found myself in a dark forest. For the clear path was lost.
All right, we recently went to an EA event where they showed off pretty much their whole upcoming catalog. Yeah, right.
Fairly recently.
I wouldn't say that, but they'll probably have like 3 or 4 more events before the summer's over.
Yeah. Well, E3's coming up as well. But there are 2 games we want to talk about specifically, and possibly a third depending on time. The first 2 are Dante's Inferno and Brutal Legend. Now, Dante's Inferno, one of my top 3 or 5 books of all time. Absolutely love it. Little concerned that it's not going to be such a true sort of I don't know what the word is, but they're not going to really represent the
Adaptation.
book the way it should be and adapt it correctly.
It's going to be an
Well,
interpretation.
the way it should
Yeah.
be is up to
Yeah,
the...
they think they are.
They do?
Yeah, they
Looking
said
at the
that a
main
lot.
hero, that's what they think Dante really looked like.
I actually asked him in the interview, I'm like, so who's this main character? They're like, oh, that's Dante. And I'm like, oh, a little more
Didn't he
badass
wear like
than I
a
remember.
robe?
Virgil still looks like an old dude who's like, you know,
Decrepit.
kind of a man of letters.
Yeah.
Virgil's like, got my Ninja Gaiden scythe I stole from death.
Yeah.
ready to combo some fools.
So beyond my affinity for the book probably getting pissed all over, what about the game itself? It looks like a combination of God of War and God of War.
Combinations, yeah. Well, it's definitely one of those things where Resident Evil 4 is to Dark Void as God of War is to
What?
Dante's Inferno.
How is Resident Evil 4 like Dark Void? at
The
all?
inspiration for.
You mean Dead Space?
Yeah, Dead Space. Oh, wow, there's generic
That
titles.
also
Yeah.
funky
Well,
title.
I was doing Dark Sector in there too.
Squash-
Still, Dark
squashes
Void
the
kind of
corn.
Dark Void still kind of makes sense. It has over the shoulder view.
The problem is I was just the Captivate thing, so I got a whole bunch of Dark Void in my mind. But yeah,
you were in Europe drinking
Dead
absinthe.
Space.
That's really the problem, isn't it?
yeah,
You're admitting that your mind is a
Yeah.
dark void, and I respect that.
so green.
But you were actually playing it, so how,
Yeah,
how
I did play it. So yeah, it's basically their take on the God of War kind of genre. It's definitely way more God of War than Ninja Gaiden or anything else. It's kind of feels like direct inspiration. They're like, this is a game type someone made. It worked really well. People like it. We can do that. We can put our own spin on it. We can make a game like this with people enjoy in the same way. So kind of like Resident Evil 4. They had the guy move and shoot, so that was super awesome. Maybe they'll do something similar here, but what I saw was pretty early. They had your combos. You have the circle appears above a guy's head, and then you hit it and you finish him. Everything had like an analog to God of War. You hold the left, I guess it's what would be as a L1 in God of War, and you hit square, triangle, and then you get this super wide-ranging, swingy attack.
Yeah,
And
somebody
it
was
was just
telling
very
me-
similar. There was almost an analog for every mechanic. The analog stick rolls. Everything feels so close to.
Well, some
God
of the
War.
people working on the game worked on the God of War series.
Yeah, so
right?
I mean, it's not as if it's a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't have any problem with that.
Necessarily.
We only get to play God of War once every 2 or 3 years, so I don't have an issue with that. Now, are there long-ranging chain-like weapons like in God of War?
What they had so far is a scythe, but it's a pretty long scythe, so you can get some coverage with it. And another button's kind of a projectile shooting like across. I think you can hold it down and it charges it and kind of spreads it out a little more. So it's kind of like
what's with the cross weapon in this
shotgunny.
game? I remember someone talking to me about it. And I was
demons
like,
hate that Shane.
they don't like crosses.
Crosses, holy water. I don't know if holy water's in it, but
What does a cross do?
it's
Doesn't it
it's a
kill
it's a
everything?
projectile type thing. You can kind of hold it down. It's basically kind of a shotgun or a bow in the game.
Would you say it's almost like a crossbow?
It is almost, except without the bow part. There's no bow.
Well, you said it was almost like a bow.
How does a cross work as a projectile?
A regular bow.
Does it like shoot energy or
It
something?
projects magical energy.
Oh.
I think we ought to have some video. I don't know how much video they gave us, but I think we ought to have a little bit of like that much. Ryan said we have about a centimeter of video.
Most of the video they've given us hasn't exactly shown off how the game plays all that well, so we're
Yeah.
still kind
It plays like, yeah.
Yeah, it's
God
just
of War.
range
God of
really.
War. Yeah. I mean, I hate to say, it's basically God of War, but.
Now, would you say it's
That's
up to
basically
the
what it is.
standards of God of War from both a gameplay and presentation?
Well, what they showed was pre-alpha, so you can't really go, oh, this, looks like crap compared to
Right.
God of War, which is like, a game that's been polished to hell and back. So they've still got, time to put their own, signature on it, get it.
When
get
is it
polished
coming out?
up a
Is it
little
this
bit.
year or next year?
2010, yeah.
We'll display that on the screen
It's so
right
weird
now
to say
after we look it
2010.
up.
When I was a kid, I thought 2010, I'd be like the whole world would be over by then. There. Anyway, let's move on to Brutal Legend. What does that mean?
We needed like a little bit of a rock. We should
Sounded
have
like a
a rock.
ukulele.
That
rep.
doesn't sound very metal, though. That's not very metal
Banjo.
either.
We'll in the edit we'll put a meaty guitar riff in there.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to think you're a nun, but I know you're really some kind of big, ugly demon, so let's have it.
So, Been waiting for this game for a long time. We started hearing rumblings that it was a strategy game. I was in fear that it was a real-time strategy game for a
was
while.
originally a strategy game.
Yeah, well, it still is kind of a strategy game.
I did see it when it was a strategy game the first time it was presented to Vivendi. Cause
Was it just straight-up strategy game?
It was like it was an RTS type strategy game type thing, and everybody looked at it and said, "What the?"
Yeah.
And then we decided it's like, oh, Jack Black, less strategy, more rock music, Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah. What does Ronnie James Dio do? Does he do the soundtrack?
I think he's doing the music, or he's doing some sort of stuff.
I think isn't he like
He's
the
doing a
evil guy?
voice.
No, that's Rob Halford is one of the villains or
Yeah.
the villain.
Did you guys know if you look at the old Dio logo from back in the 70s and 80s and turn it upside down, it says devil?
Yeah.
I'm not kidding.
I think we should explain to people now who Dio are, considering we're old enough to remember it. Yeah, go on iTunes and search for Dio.
Yeah. And then turn the logo upside down.
And back to front, and do a little dance and sacrifice a goat.
Play the CD backwards.
So this is kind of like Overlord in it. You have quote-unquote minions. So how many of those guys can you have at once sort of doing your bidding?
During the demo, one of the sequences they showed, the guy literally had like 15 dudes on there. And
Wow.
You know what the guys look like, right? They're like little sort of
They're called
stubby.
headbangers, right?
Yeah, and they have like super hyper developed neck muscles. You know, they developed them from like banging their head against the concrete to like mine ore in the slave mines. It's pretty ridiculous, man.
Now there isn't resource gathering like ore and like
No,
that,
no,
is
no.
there?
No, it's not like that.
was just
Thank
that,
God.
that
And
was
those
just
guys
like
are like, they're kind of like your foot soldiers. They're also people like you'll get like a helper character. Like there's, like Hot Chick.
Sidekick.
Yeah, Hot Chick sidekick. And you do like team up attacks with them. So I don't think you're not necessarily like carting a crap load of dudes with you at all times.
It seems like they're situational, right? Like you'll encounter
Yeah, there's
them.
like, it's time for a battle. So, you get some people psyched up and then you,
How do you get them psyched up?
with your, D-pad squad commands.
So
Yeah,
how many
it's-
commands do they have? It was like attack, defend, what else?
attack, defend, wait, follow me. Just the kind
The
of stuff
simple
you'd
basics.
expect, yeah.
And
And
then
then-
the spells are all done by playing the guitar, is that right? Special
Yeah.
attacks?
That's worked into the combos, right? Like you got your axe or whatever melee weapon you end up using, and then there's also the guitar, which you'll have some combos where you're hitting the person with a melee attack, and then you'll combo up and do like some kind of crazy ground rumble power with the guitar.
Yeah. I think what you're talking about is more like they have what they call them solos, I think. So
Yeah.
you
Right.
kind of do like like a bigger spell, or else you'll use it at points in the environment to like make something happen.
Yeah, to,
Or,
like-
raise a car out of the ground, or make something fall, or so kind of a multi-purpose.
Have they said how that's going to work?
They said it's going to be skill-based, but they didn't have the final system. And obviously, the guy that was demoing it was doing something with the controller. He knew what he was doing.
Right, and
But,
they're
they
being
don't
like
have
secretive about it. Like,
Yeah, they don't have the mechanisms in place. They haven't said if you can use a Guitar Hero controller. Or
That's
not,
the thing, right? Isn't that what you assume?
I think they mentioned that had been brought up or something. And
Well,
they're
I
like,
mean,
we
at
don't
the end of the
wanna-
day, it's really just 5 buttons.
Right.
I mean, that's all it is. You can play any game with the Guitar Hero controller if you want to.
Right.
So it makes sense that you could, but you'd probably have to have something set up where it jumped to like controller port 2 or something like that. So you
Just wear it around your neck the whole time. Yeah, I don't know.
It's EA, so it'd have to be a Rock Band controller.
right.
That's true.
Now, they've sort of been trying to bridge this gap between the PC player and the console player, making a strategy game that the console kids can get behind.
It's still not
The
really
100th
strategy,
attempt,
though,
but
at
it
this
is,
point.
right? This is
I
what-
wouldn't-
It's not. It's not at
This
all.
is more like
If you
an
see it running,
open
you're
world
not going
game.
to think this is a strategy game at all. It's like an open world game where you can grab substitutes. If anyone played Viking from the
Battle
Total
of-
War
Battle for
guys,
Asgard of
it was not the
Asgard.
best game, but it's kind of got a similar vibe to me.
That's probably not a good sign.
You go around in the world. No, the game was great. Viking, other than sucking a little bit, it was really good.
Please elaborate.
They just needed to fix that up. And basically, they didn't have a polished game. They had some good concepts, and this looks like they have some good concepts. They have some awesome writing. I was really impressed by the amount of like dialogue and stuff that would happen
Well, if you're
just
going to
running
pay Jack Black,
as you go through the
believe
game.
he's going to talk a lot.
Yeah, and then Tim Schafer's, I guess, pretty famous for dialogue. But even as you're going through and doing things, the characters are constantly talking, and they're not just saying, like, one-liners, or I'm going to kill you, or oh, we should hit the switch, or whatever. They're actually talking about the world and what's happening, what you're going to be doing.
So do you
So
not
I thought
use
it was
the
pretty
minions
impressive.
that much? Or are they just sort of a...
When we saw it, use it at a specific point. I mean, if you're playing the normal game, the impression I get, you can walk around the world, you can get in a car, you can drive to different locations, talk to people, And then when you have some heads to crack or whatever, you can go and find guys at locations, liberate some guys or do something, or else you need to storm a camp or something like that. So you'll get the dudes, count up the dudes,
So what do you guys think? You think Brutal Legend's going to be next in line for his financial failures? Or do you think this might be the one with the help of Jack Black and Metal that will break through?
There's a lot of
Power
stoners
Metal,
out there
I
who are
can see
going to
it,
love the Jack Black, and there's always the Kung Fu Panda audience as well. I'm sure they're ready to be introduced to death metal and all that sort of.
I think we're all pretty certain it's going to sell more than Psychonauts, which sold, about 30 or 40,000 copies, I think it was?
Hell yeah!
All right, now we're going to do a little post-mortem on Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine. I think it's a little better than the average movie-based game.
It's better than the friggin' movie, I'll give you that.
Is the movie that bad?
The movie is not as bad as X3, but it messes with the whole Wolverine backstory.
Is it canon?
The
Really?
Oh, yeah.
It does.
Whoa.
Like, you would know from the
Is he
setting
still Canadian?
that it's-
Oh
like,
my
you know,
God.
like all that Weapon X stuff, like in the comics,
he
is
still
like
like maple
decades
syrup?
ago.
Yeah.
And here it's like there's laptops all over the place.
Yeah, I mean that's what it is in the movies. The movie is very modern. I mean, it's supposed to be set 20, 30 years ago, but you've got like a young Cyclops in there, and everything's just so shiny and pretty. And then there's this whole Sabretooth is Logan's brother, and that messes with one of the origin stories. Anyway, the
Oddly
movie,
enough, they call it X-Men Origins.
yeah, unfortunately, it should
It's a
be
reimagining.
rewriting the origins.
Aren't there like 5 continuities now anyway? Like,
They've actually, Marvel have done a pretty good job with streamlining them into the Origins series. There's actually a Wolverine Origins book, or series of books that's actually very good. But we're not here to talk about the movie, not here to talk about the books. Let's talk about the game. And I like the game. The game is better than the movie. The game, I know, for a start, it was the Wolverine, we wanted, the gory Wolverine. That first mission where you yank the guy out the helicopter and holding him into the blades, and
The blood turns purple.
Yeah, the blood's purple. What the hell is with that? And the
Didn't
rest
look-
of the game, the blood is red.
that's like mutant.
Yeah, I think it's a compression.
I think the
thing.
guy,
Really?
the guy had swine flu.
Well, because here's the thing, I noticed this pretty quickly. A lot of those cutscenes, they're using in-game assets, but they are pre-recorded.
Yeah, they're streaming
And
them.
there's
They are
all
streaming
this
them.
artifacting all over them and stuff, and so you see stuff like that where I think that
That's
the
a little bit
compression has
tacky.
probably killed a little bit of the coloring on the blood and things.
I think the game, it's safe to say the game was a little rushed, because you'll be hitting a checkpoint or finishing a level, and it will say, saving your content, don't turn off your machine, and then you'll see streaming come up across the bottom. The word streaming come up
What?
across the bottom of the screen. But you could
Being
tell
honest
they
about it.
rushed
Yeah.
to get it out in time for the movie, because the game is buggy. There are certain things that you get caught in a tree, or you get caught on the back of a tree, and you can't rip through it to get out. There's invisible walls everywhere. There are a lot of invisible walls. I mean, in these jungle environments, you can't free roam through the jungle. They do some really great stuff. I mean, for a start, the lunge mechanic is superb.
that's
and,
fun.
the feral sense is really cool for finding cool bits and bobs, whether it's to get more rage or to see where you're going, or find
Although the weird thing
bodies.
is it's exactly like Ninja Vision and Ninja Blade.
Well, that's like the new thing to do now. It's just like you slap a vision filter on there. It's like you can see all the, let's highlight all the important stuff.
Well, it
seems like kind of a cop-out to me,
But
honestly.
it's meant to show off. It's meant to show off
to implement.
one of
That's like
one of his
Metroid.
senses, where he smells animate objects, inanimate or organic, and they do show up differently in dangerous objects. He does smell them. I mean, that's one of the things. He's part animal, if you will.
I like that there's a couple of sections where they actually have footprints, and I think that's pretty cool. 'Cause
Yeah.
You can't see them at all.
No, the
Unless-
footprints
unless you have a
section
feral
is
sense
really
on.
cool, and it's actually it's useful as well when you're playing against the ghost soldiers, who these guys with stealth, and if you
And
don't
shotguns that you can turn against them.
shotguns that you can turn against them. But one of the things I did like is the way that the environment does interact with what you're doing. For when you've got these ghost guys who are stealth camoed, and in one of the missions you actually lose your regeneration and your feral sense, and you basically, if you smash the holding tanks around it, the room floods with water, a couple of foot of water, and you see those guys running through it, and you see the splashes, and you know where to go to go and smash them out. like I said, I'm enjoying it. I'm having a really good time. I'm loving the gore. I'm loving the kill combos. I'm loving all the achievements. I like the mutagens. I just think that the game needed probably another 3 months of polish, just to really take it up to what it could have been. And it was also hampered by the fact that the movie script that it's based on is an absolute bag of felching and whoever wrote that script and whoever greenlit that script at Fox, they should have their testicles roasted over an open fire for months on end because they're f***ing with potentially the coolest comic book character of all time. I mean, I would have loved to have seen a Wolverine R-rated movie, but at least we got a Wolverine M-rated game.
And it's funny how that game totally flew under the radar. We weren't allowed to really put up any footage of it because they knew it was this really balls-out violent game, and it wasn't all that much like the movie. And it's I would like to see an R-rated X-Men movie.
I'd love to see an R-rated Wolverine movie. The other thing I will say is that while some of the bosses are really cool the first time you tackle them, when you going up against the magma monster for the 4th time in a row or the 5th time in a row,
or
it's
the
like
12th time in
the 12th time in a row. I mean, it gets a little bit repetitive.
Well, they don't change the tactics, right?
No, not at all. It's exactly the same.
No, it's basically
the only difference is there's one part where there's 4 of them, and the Wendigos. I mean, technically they're a different monster, but they're the same thing. They're just a different.
Yeah, and it's like dash left or dash right.
Like
get
Wendigo,
behind them, use the lunge.
They're like, I think they originated with Hulk. Do you know more about the Wendigos?
The Wendigos. Actually, the Wendigos were. It's a Canadian character, and I think it was in Alpha Flight, which was a Canadian comic book series.
It's in the beat 'em up. Wendigo.
Well, Wendigo is Sasquatch, and the Abominable Snowman, whatever you want to call it. That's what was one of the characters in Alpha Flight. And I think there's also was a bad guy in Wolverine that you've got this mutated Wendigo that was like kidnapping kids and eating them in one of the books. But the Wendigo in the books looks nothing like the Wendigo who this guy just looks like he took way too many steroids and then butted a radiator.
Now, who would you recommend this game for purchase to? Anybody? Is it worth $60 to anyone?
I'd say if you like comic books and you like Wolverine, absolutely.
Yeah.
If you like just out and out melee tactics / beat the shit out of everything, again, there's a lot of stuff in there for you.
If you like to
great.
make fun of bugs, I'm still upset. When I played it over the weekend, I got the most awesome bug ever.
Just the thighs.
The thighs. I was fighting a disembodied pair of thighs. It was like the waist to the knees.
Now, was this the Gambit level?
Watch out for the
No,
deadly
this
kick
is in the
attacks.
jungle.
No, that is beyond awesome.
Yeah, the dismemberment system had apparently activated before the guy was officially dead. So there are these thighs like just floating around coming at me. Wow. And you saw like the streams from the blades, even though there were no blades, they were like swinging through the air.
That's awesome. That is probably the most awesome bug ever.
But yeah, it's very gory. It's it's fun for what it is. It's not perfect. Could, like I said, need a little bit more. But I'm enjoying it, and you can tell the Raven guys who had obviously worked on the previous X-Men games and Marvel Ultimate Alliance. There's a lot of cool little trivia, and then the loading screens, the mutagens and the leveling up is really kind of cool, and you get to unlock some cool little things when you find the classic Wolverine characters, and they add to bonus levels. Plus, I bought mine at GameStop, and I actually got a code that unlocks a whole bunch of arenas and all the bad guys and everybody just to beat the out of each other. Unfortunately, I got nobody to play with.
Safe to say, though, unless you're a big X-Men Wolverine fan, you probably should rent.
Yeah.
It's about 8 to 10 hours worth of gameplay.
Yeah.
I mean, there's actually a pretty good replay value because they do tell you how many things you've killed and how far you are towards an achievement. So that means you're going to get the chance to go back, if you want to replay through and throw X amount of hundreds of people off a cliff, or make sure you impale them on this, on the trees and stuff. Again, the environmental damage is actually kind of fun. There's nothing like stacking up a bunch of people and watching them twitch on branches of trees. But that's because I'm a sick bastard.
You were supposed to be next. What's your plan, Captain?
I'm gonna find him and kill him.
All right, next up is On the Hook, where we answer your big questions that you have.
Okay, this is clone bassist. I hope he's a clone of a good bassist.
Cliff Burton, maybe? Is it Cliff Burton?
I don't know. I should
That's
ask
the first name that came to my head.
I was like Les Claypool, but
Yeah.
He's not dead though.
Either or, yeah.
Do you feel that the length and amount of content in games this gen is a lot less than previous gens, he asks? And
Done.
That's basically his question. But he's like, it's all fair to build games that look nicer, but not when it means trading off for less gameplay options. So I guess he's a little pissed.
And the games are more expensive. That's
Yeah,
the real
it
kick
is.
in the crotch.
Games are more expensive. You're
It's
getting
kinda
less
like that.
gameplay time out of it, and then you're paying more for expansion packs or DLC.
Yeah. I think they lean on multiplayer a lot more than games used to. That's sort of the crutch now. It's like, well, let's make this 8 to 10 hour game, but it's got multiplayer. I mean, even Gears is like that, you know? You don't really buy Gears to play the single player. It's fun while it lasts, but then when it's over, it's ultimately about playing that multiplayer over and over and over again. Killzone was another one. I didn't really enjoy the single player all that much, but I'm loving that.
even more, right?
But I'm loving the hell out of the multiplayer, and it just seems like a lot of games are sort of built with that in mind. It's almost like the single player is the afterthought now, and the multiplayer is really where they spend a lot of their time.
Well, it's a lot easier to produce some, multiplayer levels than it is to, populate AI into a single player level, and there's a lot more design that takes place and story that has to be written,
Scripting and all that.
It would be perfect in an ideal world that you'd have game designers giving you multiple paths to every target, multiple outcomes on every level, so you can actually go and branch off.
Yeah.
But I think
then people do stuff like that, and someone plays through the game in 6 hours anyway, and they're like, next.
Well, I think
the
Clone
single-player
Bases
game.
brings up the best example, looking at Resident Evil to Resident Evil 5. And, all the interviews leading up to the game, and we've talked about this before, they said it was just as long, if not longer. It was a total lie.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
the game
definitely a lot
wasn't even
shorter.
really half as long as Resident Evil 4. And I think it's true. The cost of making games is more expensive. The marketing, all that stuff is exponentially more expensive. That I think at the end of the day, they're like, look, we got 2 years to make this game. Whatever we get done and polished at that point, that's it.
But now that your partner has arrived, I'll leave you two to catch up.
Shut up! Come on!
So, Marcus, you have third question.
Actually,
and final
question, which actually taps into something we were going to talk about anyway, and it's from Xeno684, who is basically asking, I was wondering what Marcus thought about the news that Konami decided to pull the game 6 days in Fallujah, and also what, if any, repercussions this could have. All right, so I got to say that when Konami first picked up this game, I was surprised. It didn't strike me as a Konami game. You look at their stuff, even though they've done gory stuff like Resident Evil, and they've done military stuff with this kind of gory. Not Resident Evil, sorry, Silent
Metal
Hill.
Gear,
Silent Hill, Metal Gear. But then they've also got Dance Dance Revolution and American Idol and all these other games.
But couldn't it only be a Japanese publisher to pick up this game?
Actually,
I think if an American publisher did it, then they'd come under all kinds of heat. There's always that sort of a scapegoat for Japanese publishers. They don't understand. They
but this
don't
is not the sort
get
of game
American culture.
Yeah, but it's not the sort of game a Japanese publisher would pick up. I wouldn't.
No, I agree, but I also think they're the only people that could have got away with
I think
publishing.
I think a European publisher could have picked this up, and they could have
Really?
handled it. Yeah, they could have handled this with a little more
Here's the thing, too, you have to keep
respect.
in mind. Somebody probably still will pick it up.
Oh, yeah.
I'm sure somebody.
What,
It's out
what
there.
European publishers
Yeah.
are there that are left? Ubisoft?
Yeah, I think
Codemasters.
Ubisoft,
Cody's?
Cody's. I mean, but you look at their titles there. You got Ghost Recon, Rainbow Six, and Operation Flashpoint. So they've got the experience. I think the problem is Konami didn't really understand what they were dealing with.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, first off, they announced the game at their event, and they sat it right next to Saw.
yeah.
And, that was not a good move. This sort of game needed some sort of sensitivity, some sort of tact. And if the people at Konami thought they could just get this out under the radar and, lump it in with everything else, I think they were just grossly naive.
Oh, yeah.
Well, why would they want to even bring it in under the radar, right? Like,
I mean, the idea of it is that, hey, we're doing a game about Fallujah.
Yeah.
Right.
We're doing a game about...
it was a fairly big part of their event. And
But
they
it
did-
shouldn't have
they
been-
did put some focus on it.
It shouldn't have been with Silent Hill, and it shouldn't have been with Saw.
Well,
it should have been.
was
It should have been
actually
launched by
announced
itself.
Before the event. I mean, they
But-
sent out a separate release and stuff.
But I mean, that's the thing is that Crisis PR 101 is that you prepare yourself for all the backlash in advance, and you don't go, oh, we're going to announce this, and we're going to show this, and oh, people don't seem to like it, let's dump the game. No, let's have a crisis PR plan in place where it's like, yes, we're going to get bad feedback. How do we counter that? Well, we start working with some military charities. We start working with some of the families. The developer went and talked to insurgents. We cut that out. I mean, I'm sorry, that might be.
I mean, that was a wrong move right there, wasn't it? You don't go talk to the enemy and get their
Exactly.
perspective on how the battle went down. It's like, talk to some Marines or
Well,
something.
they did talk to Marines as
There
well.
was
They were
Marines that
talking
came up
about,
with the idea,
they were
right?
talking about
Yeah, it
both
makes
sides.
sense.
But
Talk to
It makes sense to me.
insurgents.
if you're
That makes
if you're
sense to
making
me.
a documentary,
if you can get
though,
away
like,
with it, I mean,
yeah,
you
we're
should
not
do it.
talking about documentaries though. We're talking, again, it's funny. We're talking about video games, and
But basically, you're talking about a video game
But-
that's trying to be. A
yeah,
documentary.
weren't they? They were wrapping this up in the language of a documentary, and in that case, you got to talk to everybody, the civilians, both sides,
Well, I think the interesting thing is that, as an industry, we're supposed to be getting more mature. We say games are for, for older gamers now. The industry's growing up. And then we have what is, in effect, a rookie play from Konami with regards to just not seeing things through and not treating something like this in a mature manner. And I think that's where they went wrong. If they'd have actually thought this out in advance and just been a bit more respectful, they probably could have got away with it. But I'm actually kind of glad that they're not doing it anymore, because it'll probably fall to a Western publisher, somebody with some balls. Maybe it'll be an online-only game.
They're going to need big ones.
Yeah, they're going to need they're going to need big ones. They're going to need stones, but hopefully somebody with the skill to actually see what's going on, how they can counter it, how they can get rid of the bad press, and actually involve the people who whose lives are affected on it. I hate to go back to Black Hawk Down, but that's what we did with the Special Operations Warrior Foundation. We worked with those guys who it's a charity. They take care of the families of Special Forces operatives who were killed in combat or training. We worked with them. They supplied consultants who told us exactly what was going down. There were donations made. A section of profits of the game went to this charity. We went from having those guys as like wanting our blood, and people sending us death threats. These guys saying, this is the most sensitive way anybody could have handled the video game interpretation.
Well, it didn't seem like the press backlash was that bad to me. It wasn't like a huge stink or anything.
It was. I don't think it got the chance to
It did seem to drop
really...
it pretty quick. They're like,
What was their reason
It's
for dropping
really a
it?
knee-jerk
They haven't
reaction.
really announced a reason. They've
No,
just said that
it
they
wasn't in the
backed
press
out of
release.
publishing it.
That's just a chicken move, isn't it?
It is.
Oh, yeah,
It's
no,
a chicken play, but that, like I said, I'm not surprised. It wasn't really a Konami game, and from what I've heard, from what Justin was saying and Blood was saying when they looked at the game, it sounds like it's going to be a bloody good, almost like a tax sim, and I want to see that game come out, and I just hope it can fall to somebody who can do a respectful job and not make it, make video games look like a bunch of friggin' assholes again.
We shall see.
Marines try not to enter in through the front door because that's where the enemy typically orients his fire, so instead they often will make their own entrance.
All right, that's going to do it for this week's show. Once again, Miguel, welcome to the squad. We're really glad that you're here.
Oh yeah, the pleasure is mine, guys. Thanks for having me on today.
I know all the people out there in GT land are going to love you and your work, so welcome aboard. Also want to say we have a very special guest on the show next week. You guys have asked for him numerous times. We're finally going to deliver. He's actually supposed to be here today. He forgot. That shows how much he gives a shit.
He was busy, and he was the one who bugged me to say, let me on the show.
Also, E3 is coming, and we'll have a big E3 preview show coming up in the next couple weeks, so look out for that. Until next week, Invisible Walls.